Hello guys, let us learn the Arabian Mate in this video, and let us learn some tactics while we learn the Arabian Mate. Okay, so the mating pattern Arabian Mate is characterized by the combination of a knight and the rook in delivering the checkmate. So in this position, rook to g8 is checkmate, and as you can see, the knight on f6 is controlling the escape squares for the black's king, and the knight is also protecting the rook, and together these two pieces deliver the checkmate. Now let's study other positions here. Okay, so in this position it is white's turn to move, and let's see how are we going to deliver the checkmate here. If you're thinking of knight to d3, then that is correct, because after knight d3, rook to e1 is checkmate. Okay, next, in this next position, it is white's turn to move. How do we deliver Arabian Mate? It is by capturing the pawn on f6, I think, and then rook to f8 is checkmate. Okay, in this position it is black's turn to move. Do we have an Arabian Mate here? I think yes. I think what we can do here is to sacrifice the queen, right? Sacrifice the queen, and now make a check on c1 and capture that rook on f1. Okay, in this position it is white's turn to move, and it is obvious that the move here is what? Knight to c3, and then rook to a4, and then rook takes a2. Okay, next, in this next position it is white's turn to move. What is the best move here? If you're thinking of bishop to g7, then that is correct. That forces the rook to capture on g7, and after that we can make a discovered attack by placing the knight to f6, right? But the knight will capture the rook on d8. No worries, because you have a spare rook on e1, see, and we can bring this down to e8 and capture that rook on g8. Okay, next, in this next position it is black's turn to move, and this looks familiar. This position looks familiar, but in this case what we're going to do here is to sacrifice the queen. Okay, let's sacrifice the queen, and that will allow us to deliver the checkmate using the mating pattern Arabian Mate. Do you believe me that queen sacrifice is the move here? Because the next move will be knight to f3 check, and that forces the king to go to h1, and now we can checkmate with the rook. All right, next, in this next position it is black's turn to move. Okay, how are we going to deliver the checkmate? This is quite tricky, but I think the first move is to sacrifice the rook. Let's guess. Oh, it's not. Let's try again. Maybe sacrifice the queen. Yeah, that's the first move. Sacrifice the queen. And then, yep, knight to f3, and then rook to h2 is checkmate. Okay. Next, in this position, black's turn to move. Okay, knight takes h3 is obvious, and rook to f2 is the next move. Discovered attack. But where should we place the knight? Or maybe rook first. Rook, yeah. Let's try that again. And then sacrifice the rook. There we go. And here's the Arabian Mate by moving the knight to f3 and delivering the checkmate on h2. All right, so did you see that? Okay, let's replay that one. Okay, so by moving the rook to e2, we are actually forcing the king to move away from f3, because we're planning to place the knight on f3. Okay, but that won't be possible because the king will just move to f3 once we move the knight. So rook e2 forces the king to move up, because if the king moves to the first rank, it will be mate in the next move. Okay, so for example, if here, then this is checkmate. Okay, but the king moves here first. Okay, now the white's king might think, oh, I'm safe now. No, he's not. Why? Because of the rook sacrifice. So what this rook sacrifice does is it forces the king to capture, right? It's a zugzwang, it's a forced move. Okay, so the king captures on h2, and now we can do the discovered attack, and that is by placing the knight on which square? f3, right? Knight f3 delivers the check. It's a discovered attack, and the king has only 2 squares to go to. Could either be h1 or h3, and wherever he goes, rook h2 is checkmate. Okay, if he goes to h3, then rook to h2 is checkmate as well. Okay, next, in this next position, it is white's turn to move. Okay, if you are thinking of knight to f6, then your answer is correct, because rook to f8 forces the rook to go down to g8, and then rook takes g8 is checkmate. So that's the Arabian Mate. I hope you are now familiar with the pattern and the familiar positions wherein you can you can mate your opponent's king. Okay, so let's add other examples. So in this complicated position, can you guess the correct sequence of moves? So we can see that we already have the knight on f6 and the rook on f7. So how can we utilize that? it is by sacrificing the queen, right? Let's sacrifice the queen. And that forces black to capture with the pawn. And now that there's no pawn on g7, we can deliver the checkmate on h7. All right. Next, in this next position, this is mate in one. Okay, Arabian Mate. Next, in this position, it's mate in one again. So this puzzles are easy. Let's try this. Maybe there's so yeah, maybe let's try this one. Sacrifice the queen, okay? Because we are aware that we need to use the knight and the rook, right? So by sacrificing the queen, it drives away the knight on g4 away from the g file. Now we can deliver the check on h3. That forces the king to go down to f1, and now rook to g1 is checkmate. Okay. Next, in this next position, it is white's turn to move. Again, queen sacrifice. Okay, let's sacrifice the queen. Where? If you're thinking of capturing the rook on f8, then that is correct, because that forces the bishop to move away from the g7 square, and the rook is free to go to h7 to deliver the checkmate. And that is Arabian Mate. Okay, do you need more example to familiarize yourself? Okay, let's go and go for the next one. Okay, Arabian Mate, rook h2, checkmate. Here, rook h7, checkmate. In here, where's the Arabian Mate here? This is tricky. Yeah, not so tricky. So we as you can see, we have a rook on the g file, rook on g7 actually. So how can we activate the rook? Okay, well, we can activate the rook by maybe pushing the g pawn, the pawn on g3 to g2. Okay, now so what's next after this? We can capture the pawn on h3. Okay, by capturing the pawn on h3, that forces the queen to capture. Okay, and now look at the rook on g1. That's free, and by capturing the rook on g1, that is actually checkmate. All right. Let's replay that one. Okay, so that's the Arabian Mate pattern is quite hard to see from this position, so you need some analysis here. Okay, so the way to open that file is by pushing the pawn, right? What if white captures with the rook? Okay, well, same thing. Queen takes, and then after rook to h2, rook to g1 is checkmate. All right. Or what if white tries to capture with the bishop? Same thing. Queen takes h3. After the bishop captures on h3, rook takes g1 is checkmate. Okay, so Arabian Mate. it is really good to be familiar with different positions wherein you can deliver the checkmate, and don't underestimate the power of the combination of the knight and the rook, because there are lots of different ways that you can actually checkmate your opponent's king with the knight and the rook on the board. All right, so I hope you learned something from this video. Thank you.